Behind the grandeur and power of the Roman Empire, there were deep fears and supernatural beliefs. In ancient Rome, various religions, myths, and beliefs shaped the people's daily lives and ways of thinking. The belief in a world beyond the physical and that spirits lived after death was widespread among the Romans. However, one of the earliest recorded ghost stories in ancient Rome symbolizes fear, the unknown, and a supernatural force. This story was considered one of the most terrifying paranormal events in Rome. The earliest recorded example of this story comes from the famous Roman historian Pliny the Younger, who lived in the 1st century AD. Pliny made important observations about social, cultural, and natural events of his time and recorded them in his writings. Among his writings, he mentions some supernatural events that caused fear among the people. One of these stories is about eerie events occurring in an old house in Athens. The story begins with an old Roman house where strange events are happening. Pliny notes that this house in Athens was rented at an unusually low price. Despite being very old, the house was being rented out at a price far below what would be expected. The owners of the house had a hard time finding tenants. Many people would refuse to live there, citing the bad condition or location of the house. What was peculiar was why this house, despite its age, was being rented for so little. Soon, the house's past would reveal the reason. The house had a tragic history, and this was why people feared it. A group of people decided to investigate the house's past. They found that the previous owner of the house was an elderly man who had died suddenly many years ago. Before his death, it was said that the old man's mental health had deteriorated, and he was often seen walking around his room with chains. This had become a popular rumor in the town. Many people claimed the old man had spent his last days in a strange state, constantly walking around his room with chains. According to popular belief, the old man's spirit remained in the house after his death, still wandering the house with chains. Stories like these, where spirits continue to linger in the physical world, were not uncommon at the time. People believed that when spirits were unable to move on, they remained in the place they had died, and often they would make their presence known through eerie sounds or unusual events like chains dragging across the floor. The strange occurrences in the house soon attracted more attention. A group of brave individuals decided to spend the night in the house. They gathered their courage and made the decision to spend the night there. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. However, as the night went on, strange sounds began to be heard. At first it was faint, but then it grew louder. The sound of metal clanging against metal as if chains were being dragged along the floor. These noises seemed to come from inside the house, but there was nothing visible causing them. As they searched for the source of the sound, they realized that it was growing closer and more distinct. And then, as the night wore on, a wave of fear swept over everyone. The sounds grew louder and more frantic, as if chains were being pulled in a frenzy. In the darkness of the night, the chains seemed to move through the air without any visible source. The people in the house froze in fear. The sounds were no longer just noises, but they became a manifestation of something far more terrifying: the ghost itself. It was no longer just chains rattling, it was the presence of a restless spirit. Panicked, the brave group of people began to flee the house. According to Pliny's account, no one dared to return to the house after that night. The owners of the house considered performing an exorcism to put the restless spirit of the old man to rest. However, the outcome of this story remains a mystery. The spirit of the old man was believed to be unable to find peace after death, and it continued to haunt the house, dragging its chains across the floors. This tale would go down in history as one of the earliest recorded ghost stories in Rome, one that would terrify the people for generations to come. Pliny's story had a significant impact on the Roman people. It reveals the deep belief in supernatural entities and the fear of ghosts among the Roman populace. The ghost story recorded by Pliny is one of the first known paranormal events in Roman history and would spread to other regions of the Roman Empire. Over time, ghost stories and accounts of the supernatural became a widespread belief, and such phenomena would cause fear in the hearts of people for generations. This tale, one of the earliest recorded accounts of a ghost, reflects the power of folklore and its effect on shaping the fears and beliefs of ancient societies. Stories like this one would continue to grow, and the supernatural became a central theme in Rome,